Ah, Colin, can you hear me okay? 26 years old from England. Hello, Colin. Says I've been chatting with the OCD person and the real Okay, we knew that, didn't we? Emily, first we need gender, age, and where you're tuning in from. And Ashley, again, same. Thank you for the hello. Just please provide the protocol, the three little things. If you look at column up there, he says 26 years old from England. All you have to say is M26 UK. M for male, 26 for age, and UK for where you're tuning in from. Emily says F female, F19 USA. Thank you for that. It reminds me, I recognize you guys been here, but it's just not that easy to remember everyone's, uh, you know, little stats. And we have, oh my goodness, we have someone from Bosnia. Welcome. Yes, I've seen you here before. So, male 27, Bosnia says, how to distance from feeling in HOCD. You don't have to distance. That's a feeling that is there, but you have to understand that feeling is generated and stems from, is rooted in thoughts. Thought creates feelings. And there are other ways that feelings are created, but we're talking about this kind, which is thought creates feeling. Brain is very powerful and makes the body react to thoughts. What it believes, it makes the body react to that belief, and that belief comes from the thought. And that thought comes from random. It's got nothing to do with you. It's the brain's thought, not your thought. That's how powerful the brain is. Can use the thought, and because the brain itself is swimming and living in virtuality, it has no actuality. It's all neurons and, you know, images or thoughts and so on. It's a kind of a internal communication way, or through speech external communication way. It has no existence in actuality of world, the brain itself, its functions. So it doesn't understand the different separation between actuality or virtuality. Because it's born and lives in virtuality itself, it thinks anything that it thinks, images or ideas or thoughts, is in the same world that it is, and it believes its own existence wherever it is. It's virtuality, but it doesn't know what the difference is. So it thinks about virtuality the same as actuality. So when a thought comes in and it picks on it and believes it, therefore it thinks it's actuality and makes the body react to it, because that's what the brain does, makes the body react to it. And because it doesn't understand this is just a thought, doesn't need to make the body react to it, it thinks it's actuality, and then it makes the body react into this situation, thinking that this is where we actually live. But we don't. The brain lives in a different world, virtuality. We live in actuality, but the brain doesn't have any difference, doesn't understand why, because brain is not smart. Hmm? Despite of the fact that you guys think brain is smart, is intellect, brain is not intellect. Brain is a machine, makes thoughts, and its understanding of life is virtuality. So anything that comes to it, it thinks it's actuality, because and then makes the body react, and you think, well, it must be true because my body reacted to it. No. So you have to understand brain's behavior, and then understand that um, that you don't need to distance yourself with it. You just need to understand how this apparatus of the brain works. Emily says, what does Emily say? Emily says, I don't know if you saw my question, but why does OCD bring up things that happened in the past and use it against you? Also, my thoughts makes my stomach hurt. Yeah, that's what I just explained. Because, you know, you have these thoughts created, and when they're not in line with your values, then you feel threatened that what is something coming in? What if this is going to affect me? But it's not. Nothing's going to affect you. It's going to make you think that it can affect you, and then you'll be affected because you believe what the thought is suggesting. Stop believing your thoughts, and you won't be reacting to it. You know, just like say hogwash. Go on. Like to someone you're passing by and says nonsense, to say hogwash and go on. You don't listen to everybody's suggestion in the street while you're on the bus or whatnot. You judge those thoughts. So when a thought shows up in your brain and you judge it, say, oh, it's not in line with my values. I don't like this way of thoughts or action or whatever it is that is being suggested. So I pay no attention to it. I move on. And that's what you do. But because you have given a certain echelon to the brain and you think thought has some kind of a deity, some kind of an intelligence, some kind of a coming from outer world, it's some kind of a sacred thing, then you get bamboozled and you start thinking, oh, maybe that's describing me. No, thought is not describing you. Thought is just bullshit. You're supposed to pick what thought is useful. You're the boss, not thought. Brain malfunctions, makes weird thoughts. You gotta understand that. You're not supposed to be running around trying to prove to brain that I am who I am and I am this. But because you say that, that makes me uncomfortable because you say that. Who the fuck is brain? That when it says something, it could actually have any actuality to it, any meaning to it. It's an organ. It's like saying, "Oh, I farted with a different tone today. It must mean something." What does it mean? Oh, does it mean I should not have had that, or I should have had that? I should have more of that, or does it direct me to a certain trajectory because I moved up because it was a little strong? It's an intestine. Its job is to have these grumbles and gases and this and that. You don't interpret every time that you fart. Same thing. You don't interpret every thought that shows up in your brain because that's the job of this organ, brain. Every organ has its mandate. Intestine gets food, turns into energy, and the feces and everything you go to the bathroom and get rid of it. Brain keeps thinking about something, makes thoughts for you to select if it's useful or not. It's just trying to do their job. But you take the thought coming from the brain as if it has got some purpose, some meaning. I have to now follow it. No. Why? Because all your direction in life has come from other people. Now you're used to getting direction and suggestions and leadership from outside of you. And when the thought, brain creates something, you consider that not you. The reason you follow it because damn well you know it's not you. The separation of brain, thought, and you is clear to you. This is why you follow the bloody brain because you believe brain is outside of you because all your life you've been getting directions and leadership and suggestions from outside of you. So if it's outside of you, that means you know it's not you. If it's not you, why do you comply and believe what it's suggesting is you? Because you're the one who says, well, this thought I don't like. What it makes me uncomfortable. Makes me uncomfortable. That means there is a me and then there is a brain thought. You can see the separation. That's why you object to what shows up. I want you to stress on the fact that you're right. What shows up is not you because you're objecting to it. The awareness of contradiction between what is suggested by the brain, the thought, and what your values are, that awareness tells you that brain is not you, thoughts are not you. Can you not see that? You don't have to interpret the brain's thoughts. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to follow them. You don't have to answer them. You don't have to prove anything to them. It's crocker shit in here. It's no intelligent in here. Look at the video that I produced calling Are You or the Brain is You? Based on the experiences and experiments done by the neuroscientists and neurosurgeons, Dr. Speary, Dr. Penfield, Dr. Owen, Dr. Libet, based on the report that Dr. Egnar did, I've created that 45-minute video for you, shows you beyond a shadow of doubt clearly that you're not the brain, brain is not you. And there are aspects of you and mind that the brain cannot even reach. You're the boss. You're not supposed to follow the fucking brain. It's a tool. There was a me before the brain was added to this me 40,000 years ago. Before 40,000 years ago, you were living like an animal instinctively for millions of years. Nothing was questioned. Everything was hardwired. Running, sleeping, hunting, eating, having sex, your gender, everything was clear. Why? Why was there not any confusion? Because there were no brain that could think or speak. Your brain was STEM brain, was reptilian brain, did not have any capability of speaking or thinking. That's why there was no discrepancy, no confusion. You were clear as what you were, what your values were, and you were living instinctively based on that. Since you got this brain that can think and sophisticated to help solve things, calculate things, figure out things, design things, and so on, lots of good things about it, good powers about it, it also has a curse that comes with it, which it can go malfunction. And because it can think and speak, it creates thoughts, which brings confusion. But you, the same person, without this brain was added to you 40,000 years ago, had no confusion. There was no question because there was no ability to think. So thoughts are the roots of all problems. Can you understand that? Make it clear for yourself. Stop looking for assurances. Stop looking for to proving to yourself or to the brain who you are, what you are. All these things are nonsense. Hmm? You live by your vetoes and choices based on your values, what you have decided to be sacred and hold and protect in your wise advocate, in your gatekeeper, in your super consciousness, in your principles. That's who you are. You're defined by your actions. You're defined by your vetoes and choices, not by the thoughts, suggestions, and images that shows up in your bloody brain. That's a fucking organ. That's all. Nothing else. Pardon my French, but that's a very scientific way to prove some. Bring your attention to something. All right, let's go on to um, and where are we here? Val is here. It says, hello, Maron, female 35 Texas. Oh, my favorite girls are here from Texas. Says, for a few months, I was doing good and had my compulsion under control. Now, stressful things have happened in my life, and now I'm back to the compulsion and it makes me cry. Don't. Because every time you have a stressful thing, it taxes your brain and you need more assurances because stressful you already have created a little bit of a agitation, and the foundation is a little bit, and we being have been accustomed to constantly get affirmation and assurances from this and that, so forth, and now a little bit of a stress is creating a little bit of a shaky foundation. So you run into OCD and behavior of that, and more compulsion is necessary for you to feel good about yourself. But remember, one of the reasons that the OCD attacks and subsets of OCD attacks a little bit more when there's stress, because when there's a stress, what do you want? You want to feel good. How can you get that feel good? Without thinking about it, but unconsciously you know about it, is when you do something that causes dopamine to be created. And every time that you do a compulsion, every time you do a compulsion, there would be a good feeling of and that creates dopamine, and the dopamine makes you feel another ah. So now that feeling of having dopamine make you feel good relieves the stress. You don't notice it why you go to OCD is because you want help with the stress. How? What can help the stress? Something that makes you feel good. What? Dopamine. Where do I get that? By doing some compulsion. What's the easiest way and fastest way to do that? By doing crazy things, touching the wall 5 times. Okay, everything is cool now. Huh? Or hitting my head to the wall. It can go that way. Or going over the 4 corners of a tile and this, because, okay, now everything's balanced. So whatever makes you feel assured and confident that everything is now okay, which you created that craziness in your brain to accept that when I do this, everything is okay. It still gives you a feeling of, and that gives you a feeling of, that secretes dopamine, and that releases that stress. That's why OCD picks up when you're stressed, and you don't know why it picks up, because you need more solid grounds. And how can you get that? By feeling good. How do you feel good? Compulsion. Because when I do compulsion, it's satisfying, and psychologically, as crazy as I've become, makes me feel balanced and everything is good, and dopamine is created, is increased, and then I feel so it's all about this feeling of good, which reduces the stress. Instead, if you increase your workout, if it's healthy for you, activities and things that brings that satisfaction and confidence and feeling good after a good workout, and or socializing, creating more oxytocin, then that level of being a bit crazy that we all get when OCD hits will go down. Why? Because you've already increased the dopamine by workout and feeling good rather than getting it from the compulsion. So then the OCD goes back down, even though you're stressed, because you handle the stress through getting dopamine through other activities such as workout and things that you like to do, socializing and so on. Capiche? I hope you did. And Connie says, how do you distinguish the brain suggestions and your desires? Lately, I can't tell cause of feeling a false attraction. They feel too real. Your problem is that you're trying to prove to yourself that the desire and brain suggestion, how can I distinguish? All you have to do is to recognize the evidence, psychological opinions, and um, scientific proof that brain and you are separate. Instead of trying to prove this is different than that, prove the source of this, the thought, which is that brain, is already separate from the me. Then whatever it suggests is irrelevant to you because it's not you, it's got nothing to do with you. Brain is manufacturing it, not me. It's no different than what other people believe or say. I don't have to say why what they're saying is different than my desire. Well, they're different people, and you're a different person than they are. You're separate. Why are you trying to compare how to prove what they say is different than your desire? Because simple, you're different people. Brain is also separate from you. It's not the same. You're not the brain. Brain is not you. So what it conjures up and suggests is irrelevant to you. The fact that you recognize what the brain is suggesting is not in line with your value and you question it, that's awareness of the contradiction between what brain suggests and what you're all about. Let's say your desire or who you are or what your values are versus what the brain says. The awareness of this contradiction, as this difference, it simply proves to you that you're not the brain. Brain is not you. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know the difference. Because if it was the same, you wouldn't notice anything. Tea doesn't notice that it's different from itself because it's not. It's tea. But it notices it's different than coffee, it's different than pop, it's different than water, because it's separate. There's a contradiction between what it is and what that thing is. If it was no contradiction, that means it would be tea, because that's the only thing that doesn't have contradiction. You wouldn't even notice any difference, even when you drink it. And if I drink something else, I can see the contradiction. That means these are not the same. So you right now are seeing the contradiction. You're aware of a contradiction between what the brain is suggesting and what you actually know what you're all about, your values are. It's not it's not in line with your values. That's why you question it. What is this? Why do I feel this? I don't like that. And you try to prove something. You don't have to prove anything. The fact that you're aware of this contradiction, that means you're not the brain and brain is not you. So what the brain suggests is for its own shit. Don't give a shit. That's brain thought. And brain is not intellect. So what it says has no value. Because you're the judge to see if whatever brain produces, thought, suggestion, is of any interest, is of any use, is of any value or not. You choose it. You either select it or you veto it. That's how we roll in life. By our vetoes and choices. Not by suggestions and images and ideas of the brain. Because who's the brain? Brain is one of my apparatuses. Brain was added to me 40,000 years ago. It cannot tell me who I am, what I'm all about. I say that because I existed millions of years before this brain came to the shape that it is. It's supposed to serve me. That's why I use it to do things, calculate things, design things, learn things, figure out things. But it can go rogue and does its own shit. That's when I come into the picture and I judge it. I say, no, that's no good, not in line with my values. I let it fall by the wayside and never see the light of day, never become any action, the thought that was suggested by the brain. That's my power. Vetoes and choices is where the boss resides, and that's you, not the brain. Brain can never choose or veto. In the experiment that Dr. Leibet did, if you watch that video, it clearly shows that about, you will see the experience, I just make it short. About half a second before you make a decision to do something simple like push a button, half a second before you make a decision to push the button, not when you push the button, you make a decision to push the button, the electromagnetic system that was attached to the brain recognizes there's a spark in the brain. That means then the materialists say, oh, see, it's all the brain. We are the brain. And Dr. Leibert said, hey, hold on. Because when then he did the different exercise, this is the outcome. Now he said, okay, I want you guys log when you decide to push the button. Not when you push the button, when you decide to push the button, log it. And then right after that, they say, no, I changed my mind, veto it. So then they looked at the electromagnetic signatures of that exact time that they decided to push the button. They say, yeah, there's a spark in the brain. But then they looked at the log of the electromagnetic effect and signature of when they vetoed it. Like you decided against doing that. Brain was dead. Brain was not even involved in vetoing, in a decision. To veto, meaning you overpower the brain, meaning you're the only power that can override the brain. And brain has nothing to say and no role in it. It's not even involved. Why? Because you're beyond the brain. Brain can only reach certain amount and try to manipulate or say something. But you're the one. It's like a classroom and the kids say, sir, ma'am, teacher, me. And you're the one who chooses. Don't ignore a bunch and choose one, depending on what the answer and what it is that you feel it's qualified. It's in line with what you're teaching. Hmm? You're the only power, not the brain. Watch that video and you'll see how brilliant it is that beyond the shadow of doubt, Dr. Leibet proved that you live by your vetoes and choices, and brain has no role in it. Brain has no intellect. Brain has no power. You're the only power, bigger power than all. Okay, said enough of that. Now, Gabriela says, I've been skipped. Gabriela, protocol. Pronto, protocol. F, if it's female, and age, and then where you're tuning in from. Beetlejuice says, male 18, Norway. Says, hello, Meran, my HOCD keeps coming back. Yeah, that's the nature of it. Keeps coming back because you keep checking it. What do you mean keep coming back? Lots of people go into this. I go to the street and lots of people could say shit. Or maybe call me an asshole. Or say something. As long as I pay attention to it, I hear it. So what do I say? Oh, I heard it, so I'm an asshole. No, they can say whatever they want. It doesn't define me. I go about my business. I ignore and go about my business. And tomorrow I come to the street and same people or some other people say similar things, if not the same, another word but derogatory. So what does that mean? Oh, my identity is back now? No, I ignore it again. So it doesn't matter what people say. You are who you are, what you choose to be. They can't, their suggestion or uttering cannot define you. You and your actions define you, your vetoes and choices. Hmm? So my HOCD came back. Came back from where? It's a nonsense that it comes in and you entertain it, then it gets existence. You ignore it, it doesn't exist. Yeah, it makes you feel like, oh, this is real. But just understand that this is what the brain does. Brain is very powerful. A thought shows up. If you believe it, then it believes it. And when it believes it, the brain believes it, makes the body react to it because that's what it does. And when the body reacts to it, you can understand the body's emotion reaction. Then you take that as an evidence that what the thought showed up was real. No, it's not real because there was a reaction in the body. The reaction of the body is because the brain, through thought, can believe the thought because the brain doesn't understand anything difference between actuality and virtuality. So it believes a thought or thinks it, and then it has the power to make the body react to a thought. Body is reacting to the thought by the power of the brain, not by your choice. Hmm? If you sit in a doctor's office and cross your legs one on the other, and the doctor uses that little plastic rubber hammer and hit it right between your knee, right here, and then your knee jumps up. What do you say? You decided for it to jump up? No, it was manipulated to react to a certain effort, force. Brain does that to the body, but when it reacts, when the body is influenced by the brain, and reacts to it, that is not an evidence that the thought was correct, that the brain was correct, that it was true. It's what the brain can do through thoughts make the body react. But the reaction, physical reaction of the body or emotional reaction of the body is not an evidence of the truthfulness or factuality of whatever the fuck it was that the brain was conjuring up and the thought had been manufactured. Can you understand this? I hope you do. All right. Okay. Cloud97 says, ever since I got homosexual, listen, I need credentials first. Guys, no protocol information, no soup for you. All right. Anonymous needs to put credentials, gender, age, where you're tuning in from. Guys, give me something. I got to know where you watching this, which country, which city, to have a little bit of background, maybe a little bit of a understanding of what your culture is, your age, your gender. Come on now. This is not just bunch of people gathering in the street and everybody says what they want. Just give me a bit of info who you are. Zyko says, hello, how do I start? Okay, Zyko, I need protocol. Don't you guys read anything that I'm writing up there? It says, hello, everyone, please let me know what your gender is, what your age is, and which city you're watching this program from. So, like Val did, says, hi, Miran, F/35/Texas. Easy. Female, 35, Texas. I know something about her, who she is, where she, how old she is, how can I respond to her, what gender is it, properly I can respond to her based on all that and the culture. Texan, okay, all right, that's my rule and I'm sticking with it. All right, all right. So, so when I see your question, you don't have that, I'll just move on to the next. You want to redo it, then resend it with that credential information in there. OCD has says, hi, Meran, 27, male, Bosnia. Says, when I see a good looking guy, I feel threat and false attraction. Why is that happen? But when I try to imagine me with same gender in any way, I feel disgusted. Sorry for the BSD English, bad English. No, that's fine. Well, it's very simple. Many people fall for that false thing. And that's because of this. You see another good looking male, or you see a male with good fit body, muscles, and so on. Well, that's how you want to look to the girls. You want to have big muscles and fit, and you want the girls that because you know if you look that way, girls like it. When you see somebody who's good looking and or has this kind of a fitness level, you see them as a threat to your chances to get the girls because they're now seem more qualified because you believe that this is how you look qualified to the girls. Now when you see somebody else like that, you feel them to be a threat to your chances to get the girls. That's the first part of the anxiety. Then because you are in pursuit of getting big muscles and look good and be fit so you can therefore have a better chance with the girls, you have a certain respect for this level. So when you see somebody who is good looking or who has this kind of a fitness done, you create a certain respect in your mind and a feeling of inferiority because you believe that's what you should be doing, you want to do so the girls would like you, but he's already got it, so you feel a little bit inferior. And that inferiority and respect translates into your brain because of the HOCD and OCD, turns it into you're submissive to the guy. And that submissiveness thinking will associate itself in nanosecond to about, oh, you like the guy, you want to kiss the guy, you want to suck his dick or whatever else. Because all that is what you would do with the girl, like she would do with you. And so this whole inferiority feeling and the respect for that, what is you need to have chance with girl, he already got it. And therefore your OCD brain runs with all the associations of things. And then you think that is what you're thinking. No, this is how it works. And it goes further than that. You can actually feel that whatever it is that you imagine because you have done it with the girls. And when they're actually doing it to you, you actually can see and imagine how the girl is feeling when she's doing it to you because part of you is engaged in what she's doing to you. So you can feel through your feeling, you can feel how she's feeling in whatever she's doing. And therefore, when the thought of this intrusive thoughts, for the association of what we just talked about, seeing another male come into your mind, you actually are able to feel what that thought suggesting action would feel because you have had that experience with girls and you know how that feels. So that association takes place in a nanosecond. And then you think, oh, see, I must be homosexual because I'm thinking about it. I can understand how it feels. No, it's all because it's been already recorded by the experience and understanding of sex with girls that you already been involved in it, therefore you could feel how they feel while you were engaged in that. So these are all very clear once you actually see the connection of it. And then interpretation of it, having an OCD brain, takes you somewhere that it's got nothing to do with anything. All right, I hope I answered that for you to understand. All right. Gabriella says, I'm Monica, female from New York. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask if OCD or HOCD can make me feel like I am two people. Like when I am with my parents, I feel good. And when I am alone, the other voice tells me I'm my HOCD. Well, that's the malfunction of the brain. It's got nothing to do with you. You're not malfunctioning. The brain is malfunctioning. So you got to understand that. When you understand that you're not the brain and brain is not you, then you're not really worried about what the brain suggests, or what thoughts shows up, what images shows up, because you look at it as like it's on TV. Well, TV is not me. And what it shows up there, I either can pay attention to or not pay attention to. But this TV happen to have a screen on my head. But recognizing that the source of these images on your screen is not you, is the brain. It's like your TV is not the source of what you see on it. It's a receiver that actually receives from stations that are actually broadcasting that program. So because you can receive it in your living room, that doesn't mean you produce the program or you're part of the program. You have the ability to receive that program. That's all. Your brain, you have the ability to receive these images, but those images are not chosen by you. They are based on some kind of a malfunction or activity of the brain. And brain is not you. Brain is not intellect. Brain is not defining you. Your actions and choices and vetoes define you. If you understand this, then you're not afraid of whatever the fuck this brain creates. Because the brain is no different than your intestines. It can have a diarrhea and you don't question it. Oh, I must have been diarrhea all my life because now I can see it. What do I do? You don't say that. You say, well, it's malfunction. Something wrong with it. Yeah. So you do something. I don't know. You stay away from something, or you have rice or yogurt or something until it heals, or get some medication. Not for the brain, but I'm saying in this case, you do things that you need to do to fix this malfunction because you're clear that this is a malfunction. Why? Because that makes you uncomfortable. Therefore, I am not choosing to be uncomfortable all my life. And I've been comfortable in my life when this was not present, diarrhea. It was not diarrhea. You can see the malfunction in your physical organs. When it comes to your brain, you somehow forget that the brain is also an organ, can malfunction. But when it suggests something that you've never been, you never had interest, but now it puts it in the screen of your head and constantly there, and you don't see that as a malfunction. You see that, oh, I must have been this, but it didn't show up until now. And even though if it did show up then, earlier, or now, I don't like it. But what I don't like doesn't count. What it suggests counts. It's like saying, what my intestine, does, that's all it is. But what I want my intestine to function as, that's not important. Then why do you complain when you have a diarrhea? Why don't you just say, okay, that's what I am? But you don't. But when it comes to some malfunction in the brain, you just fall apart. Oh, that must have been me. Really? Why do you say that must have been me when something else, you clearly can see it's something else, it's a brain? How could brain be you when there is a you before the brain was added? It's like saying I'm intestine. Intestine is an apparatus, is an organ for your purposes to be able to turn food into energy and so on. Liver has a job to do. You can't say I'm the liver. No, liver, kidney, intestine, these are all things that the you, which is beyond material, needs to negotiate physical environments. There is a you, and that's not physical. Hmm? And that you has always lived before the brain was added to it. That's why in the studies that the neuroscience and neurosurgeons, such as Dr. Speary, Dr. Penfield, Dr. Owen, Dr. Libet have done, they have shown it beyond the shadow of doubt that the brain cannot reach you and aspects of your mind. They have been able to localize a center that they could make you kind of see a light by, pressing on the occipital point in the back of your head, or maybe they manipulate part of the brain in the mid somewhere and have you move your arm or say utter a sound. But they could not localize a place where intellect is there, that compassion is there. They could not localize a math center that suddenly you start talking math because they stimulated it. There is no localizing possibility for intellectual discussions, political discussion, political views, intellect. They could not change your consciousness by manipulating it, which means you, the consciousness, is not localizable, is not physical. The brain is physical, yeah, material, right? But it cannot reach what you're all about, which is beyond matter. There are aspects of you and the mind that the brain cannot reach. That means brain is not you, and you're not the brain. Don't fall for the bullshit that it suggests. It is very powerful. Its job is to do that. But don't think that the apparatus that makes thought is you. No, it makes thoughts like your liver and your kidneys and your intestine do things, but you choose, you regulate them. So you're the judge of what the brain does, not the follower or the student of the brain. The brain is not your leader. Vous comprend? Can you understand? Wakarimasu ka? Vous знаете? Понимаете? How else? All right, let's go on to free yourself from this jail that you've created, thinking that the brain is everything. Brain is the most stupid part of you. It's got no intellect in there. And watch that video that I've made, and I'm going to put the link here. It's a very crucial video. I really would like you guys all to watch it. That is a video that really gives you. There is a playlist I have, which is called Intrusive OCD, HOCD short videos. None of them are short, but watch that playlist, perhaps every one of them. There are ways that I've described to prove to you that the brain is not you, you're not the brain. Dr. Schwartz have done that in his Brain Lock book, has clearly explained that you're not the brain, brain is not you. In those videos in that playlist, I have in different ways tried to show you in a layman terms why and how you can see clearly that there is a separation between brain and you, and that you're not the brain and brain is not you. And there are aspects of you and the mind that the brain cannot even reach. It's not even involved in that activities when you are in charge. Okay, let's see. This is the video that I want you guys relax with it and have and enjoy it. It's a little bit long, but I tell you, you get a lot out of it. So don't underestimate the power of the video. Do not underestimate the power of the dark side. And the power of the dark side is your brain. Contrary to everybody thinks that the brain is where the smart is. No, brain is actually the fucking confusing part of you. Nothing else is confusing. All right. I hope that you all saw it. That link. Astley says, Mail 30 London, I have a question. How can criticism or negative comments affect someone's confidence or spirit when apparently women or achieving goals in life, etc.? When approaching women or achieving life and etc. How can one move on and not allow? Well, because you don't look at women as human beings. That's your problem. Mostly we are conditioned to think of women as better than us, beyond us. Why? Because they have the most sought after, they're the source of most sought after pleasure in our entire life. For a heterosexual male, women is the symbol of pleasure and solution. Hmm? You see, the problem is you think of a woman as the highest sought after pleasure, not as a human being necessarily at the outset. And you look at the woman, you consider woman as a solution to your life. All the shortcomings, all the things you don't have. You don't have money, you think if you have a woman, you're happy. You don't have something to eat, but if you have a woman, you'll be handling it easier. It's still a little bit difficult, that part. It's not a good analogy, but if you don't have a car, you don't care as long as you have a girlfriend. If you don't have much money, but as long as she agrees to come and have a little bit of a hot dog or something, ice cream, you're happy. So you have problems in your family, but you see your girlfriend, and because you can hold her hand or kiss her or hold her, or you guys may decide to be intimate, which is the highest form of pleasure. Then at that moment you forget you exist, let alone have any problems. And the source of such a pleasure that can get you out of this world and the challenges that it has, put you in a certain kind of a zone that nothing you need and you have everything at that moment of intimacy. So you have a hard time to look at women as human beings. You look at them either as solutions or your goal in life, because it brings you pleasure and solution and intimacy, which is your design for procreation. And that is what you're seeking. And she can give it to you. So you always approach a girl at an inferior position, which if you do, that's why you get really bad feeling when they reject you or they don't accept you, because you didn't look at them as a human being that you may or may not have things in common with. You looked at them as the solution to life. You looked at them as the pleasure center that you seek, that everybody is trying to have as much pleasure as you can, because through pleasure you get rid of your pain. Through pleasure you feel fortunate. No wonder so many people go try to solve the problems that they have in life through pleasure of different kind, whether it's drugs or drinking or gambling or something that gives them pleasure, because at that moment the dopamine is produced, and that doesn't let them feel weak and doesn't let them feel that they have a problem, because they're in a different world, in different stage. And that's why you value pleasure so much, which the problem is that in choosing the pleasure because it makes you feel good, you forget to ask if it is good for me. Because not everything, or not necessarily anything that makes you feel good, is also good for you. You have to be aware of it. What makes me feel good is also good for me. Well, if it's your girlfriend, yeah, it makes you feel good and it's good for you. But if it's a gambling or drinking or drugs, It makes you feel good, possibly, but it's not good for you. Hmm? So you got to be aware of it. So when you think of woman as pleasure house, or the level of pleasure, the ecstasy, what you're searching to forget about all your problems and feel that you have all the solutions in your hand through pleasure. When you look at the woman as a solution to your life, then you're shaky and you feel very affected when they reject you. But if you look at her as a human being, that she gets up in the morning, she got to go to the bathroom and shit, and she got to have, wash her face and look good. Her mouth is stinky like anybody else, and she has to have breakfast and put her clothes on, and she has to have money to go and eventually buy some things or go to work or go to school. She has all these challenges, pay the rent and everything. You will see that she's not a superhuman, and she's not a solution. She has her own problems. Then you will consider her as, if she is qualified for me. Does she have a good job? Does she has good manners, a proper upbringing? Does she dress nicely? Is she clean? Does she clean herself? Does she has good manners, morals? You don't consider her persona. You only go right to the pleasure that you get from her and the solution, that how it makes you feel, that makes you feel that you have no problem. Therefore, she's considered a solution. And at that way, you have a hard time standing up in front of her in one piece. You're just like this to begin with, let alone if she rejects you, because you already consider her better than you, higher quality than you, and you already consider yourself inferior. Why? Because you need something from her, and that is intimacy, to hold her hand, to have be accepted, so she can you can you can affirm yourself through her affirmation. She can validate you by paying attention to you. Instead of you validating yourself, you consider a woman a source of validating you. Go validate yourself by your own accomplishments, then you wouldn't look at the woman as a validating station. So if she refuses you or rejects you, you fall apart. Or if she rejects you or refuses you, you think, oh, I lost solution to my problems, or that I have no chance to get pleasure. Well, there are billions of other women. I bet you, even if you don't try, you will bound to like, both of you, like each other eventually, somewhere. So if you understand all these things, then you will look at the woman as another human being with all her abilities and shortcomings. And then you qualify her based on her qualifications, if she's qualified for you, as she qualifies you if you're qualified for her. And on that basis, if she doesn't accept you or rejects you or doesn't, want to go out with you, you will simply see that she's not qualified for you. Why? Because the first stage of most important stage of qualification is that if she also likes to be with you. If she doesn't, that disqualifies her. Rather than you think you always rejected. No, she was rejected because she didn't want to be with you, and that's your condition. If you want to choose a girlfriend, she also want to be with you. If she doesn't, that's a deal breaker. Number one. Number two, her manners and education and what she brings to the table, what her capabilities are, what her characteristics are. If you guys bond unconsciously or not, you got to judge her as she judges you. But you don't do any of that. You only say, haha, legs, boobies, pretty, sex. That's all you see. You don't see her. You don't qualify her. That's the problem. Look at her as a human being, then you'll see if she's qualified or not. Look at it as pleasure and solution to your life, then you're always doomed to be shaky, and when they reject you, fall apart. Hmm? All right, let's go on to next. Yes, Vikas, that's the typical HOCD behavior and what the suggestions are, that you will like it and all that. But revert back to what I just discussed about a similar topic, similar question. When this is re-uploaded, if you weren't here, then that could help you out. Random says, Meran, I have this new thing that I am struggling with. I get anxiety every time I'm in public when I get close to people. I don't want to touch them, and I notice my hands and my body a lot. How do I stop it? So what happens if you touch them? What's it? What you think they're dirty, or you catch a disease? What is it? I mean, today everybody is fucked up in their brain because of all the shit that these motherfuckers have done to us all in the world with all their garbage and trying to convince us of that there is something horrendous is happening, that you got to get this thing, otherwise you're doomed. So we've all gone psycho, thinking even if we touch another human being, that which was part of our living in the world before 2 3 years ago, now you go bonkers. It's like, just resist that bullshit. Psychological well-being will come back to you by recognizing that, okay, so if I think it was dirty, I'll go wash my hands. If it wasn't, I just bumped into somebody, so big fucking deal. Don't let this whole bullshit turn you into a psycho, because that's the plan. Now they're going to have people against each other, the ones who do have this and the ones who don't have it. Now they're creating these other questions that, oh, the world is like this because people haven't gotten this. All fucking bullshit. You want to get it, go get it. You don't want to get it, don't get it. But don't get at each other's neck whatsoever. Everybody's free to choose and to see the science of it, do their own research, and whatever they want to do. They want to get shit in their body, they go get it. They don't want it, then don't. But don't get at each other's necks or throats, whichever. Necks. All right, all right. Oh, yeah, Gabriela. That's what HOCD does. It makes you think and analyze every fucking normal thing that happened in the past. Like when you're growing up, you like your friend, and you actually like your friend a little bit more than, like, because you're grown up, you don't know anything. You can be impressed by any kind of a energy, and you haven't really understood the meaning of anything. So you could like anything anyway. You could like a horse, but the brain is not going to say, "Oh, that means you were horsosexual." But when the HOCD, it's gonna make you go into try to find evidence that you are not what it suggests you do. All you have to do is, listen, you're not me. So whatever you suggest, fuck you. That's you. That's not me. That's your thoughts. That's not my thoughts. I am who I am based on what I choose to be and what I've always been, what I like to be, what I prefer to be, and what my genes are put together. And I like and I prefer whatever it is that I prefer. Then it doesn't matter what you brain suggests. I don't give a fuck. Done. Uh, well, that's what it does. It asks you, pushes you to prove to me. So fuck you. Who are you to prove to you? I've proven to myself. I don't need to prove anything. I am what I am. Don't prove anything. Just live. It's all bullshit. If there was no malfunction, there is no healthy brain that would actually make you question anything or prove anything. It's supposed to work for you, not to suddenly be Mr. Judgmental to judge you. His whole fucking existence is dependent on your living. He's like a leech attached to you. It couldn't have been running. Just imagine there was no you, but there was brain running around by itself. Where? How? It can only exist if you exist. See, that's the whole thing. You can exist without the brain, but brain cannot exist without you. Can you then say what the brain suggests can actually be you or would have anything to do with you? Because your existence can facilitate and make possible for the brain to exist. But the brain's non existence does not affect your life in the way that you would affect its life. Why? Because we lived a millions and millions of years before this brain was developed to what it is. We had stem brain, we had reptilian brain. And because I'm alive, the brain was could add it to could live. Not because the brain is there, I'm there. No. If I die, no brain. But if the brain dies and becomes into vegetative state, I still live. Watch my video where Dr. Owens have done his experience with a lady whose brain was crushed in an accident, but they could still communicate with her when the brain was not involved, was not active. So what was it that would make the lady to still communicate and understand through signals? How? Where? Why? Because brain is not you. And when even demolishes, there is something beyond brain. That is you. So don't let the brain tell you who you are. This fucker cannot exist without you. But you can exist without it. I mean, maybe very primitive, but you won't die. You can still communicate. If within the parameters of the experiment. Yeah? Just enough for you to see that the brain is not you. So whatever it says is bullshit. You don't have to believe it. Hmm? And of course, many other one of my videos, which has discussed the findings and discussions of Dr. Schwartz about caudate nucleus malfunction and the striatum and so on and so forth. And you have to understand. And then watch videos of psychologists, psychotherapists, which are well known, like Dr. Philipson, Dr. Jan Weiner, talking about OCD and subsets of OCD and HOCD. Educate yourself. Don't believe the fucking thing here. When this goes malfunction, makes you think in a certain way, and then your judgment about what you're thinking, what suggestions are there, are also coming from a malfunctioning brain. Don't think that what you think about the malfunction by the malfunctioning brain has any credibility. You got it? I hope you got it. All right, let's go to what else do we have here? Male 30, Colombia. So I've gotten to a point with my HOCD that I just am going to accept I'm gay. Feeling that I would actually like doing through, okay, that's your choice. If you think that's what it is, that's what it is. But it can't be HOCD and homosexuality. It's either HOCD or your gender has always been this. So you figure that out. But don't tell me HOCD, I accept. That's bullshit. You're not supposed to accept. If you are, you are. You're homosexual, you're homosexual. Great. That's what you are. Live your life, enjoy, and embrace it. And you can be there's no difference. That's your gender. Yeah. Prosperous, happy. But don't tell me that I accepted something that I wasn't, but because it persisted. That's bullshit. It's like someone who's homosexual and is malfunctioning in his brain and says, you're heterosexual. And he finally says, okay, I accepted it because it constantly told me I'm heterosexual. But if you're not, then you're not. Stick with it. Accept what? If your brain is malfunctioning, well, then go get help and bring it back to health. Why do you, then what happens if it turns around the other way around later? Are you going to accept that too? Then you're going to go back and forth. So if it's HOCD, then it's HOCD. No accepting necessary. Just live your life as what you prefer, what you've always been, and what it's what's in line with your values. If it's not HOCD, then you have no problem. That's what it is, and you should know that, rather than saying, "I accept the HOCD." You're accepting HOCD, not your gender. Whatever your gender is, homosexual or heterosexual, whatever your gender is, that's what should be protected, not the fact that something persisted. What if you are a homosexual and you're walking in the street and somebody keeps trying to convince you that you're heterosexual? Well, you're going to eventually say, okay, then, because it continuously, relentlessly suggested to me, I'm going to accept. What if you're heterosexual and you walk in the street, somebody tries to, convince you that you're homosexual and tries to make advances? What are you going to say? Okay, I give in. Okay, then I'm homosexual from now on. No. Whatever you are, heterosexual, homosexual, you protect that and understand if there is a malfunction, there is confusion, you protect yourself and help your brain to be healed so you can enjoy what your gender is and it's always been, rather than, okay, I accept because it persisted. What the fuck? I mean, somebody comes in the street and keeps trying to sell you some kind of expensive handbag. You keep rejecting no matter how many times it says, fuck off. I don't like this design. But when it comes to something far more superior and important, your gender, whether this way or that way, but you're going to give in and accept, even though you know it's HOCD. Everybody gets HOCD, you know that. It's not just heterosexuals. So that's lack of education. Go educate yourself, and if you see your gender is that, that's fine. But don't accept HOCD. That's bullshit. All right. How do you know? By educating yourself to understand what HOCD is, how it functions, by talking to your psychologist, psychotherapist. As I explained to you, watch Dr. Phillipson's video. Is a 45 minutes interview with some organization. Watch Dr. Jan Weiner's video about HOCD, how it functions, what it does. Watch Dr. Schwartz's presentation about neuroscience of habits, that how it creates the malfunction of the striatum in the malfunction of caudate nucleus in the striatum midbrain, and the role of its malfunction in the signaling system, and then learn and educate yourself rather than being convinced. Why do you have to be convinced of something that you are or something that you're not? This is the problem. Today, we're convinced rather than facts. We're convinced that we got to get this thing in these days. Otherwise, we're all going to, you know, perish. The bullshit that they've put in everybody's head. Why do we have to be convinced and not to protect what's logical, what's uh, in our values, and what is actually benefiting us or suitable to who we are, who we want to be, what we always been. So look for education, not being convinced. If you can easily be convinced if you lack education, but if you have education, you can't be convinced for nothing. All these things that are going on, there's so many other researchers around the world that they're not convinced. Why? Because their education level of understanding about the virology and all that is far beyond the bullshit that we're being fed. So educate yourself, then make educated decisions and conclusions. If you were what suggestion of the brain is that you are, you wouldn't need to be convinced. You would always be very easily knew it rather than being suggested by the brain. Suggestion means contradiction to what you are. Otherwise, it wouldn't be suggestions. It would be you. And when there's a you, there is no suggestion. I don't get a suggestion from my brain that I'm heterosexual. I am. I don't get a suggestion that I like women. Why I do. OCD, HOCD, and malfunction of the brain is when it suggests contrary to what you are. That's suggestion. That you can see the contradiction. Awareness of a contradiction tells you that you're separate than what the suggesting source is, or suggesting the thought that is being suggested. All right, let's go on to And Gau CLB says, by the way, I love your channel. You help me a lot. Well, delighted to hear that, dear. Delighted to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. Guys, don't forget to promote the channel. The channel will wither and die if it doesn't get enough view. So please share it on your social media, talk about it in chat rooms, whatever it is. However you can promote it, promote it. Astley says, Male 30 London, I hope I love. No, I have another question before I leave. Is it possible for us men to ever understand woman? Well, woman is not a commodity to understand. Every woman is different because we are consciousness, and our consciousnesses are conditioned differently through our life. Hmm? Even same circumstances, same event could affect your consciousness differently than it would affect somebody else's consciousness differently, and different conditioning takes place in it, different reactions place in it, and different advancements or modifications or improvements takes place in that consciousness. So we're always evolving. So it's not a commodity to say, can you understand women? Well, it's something that they play with, but it's because they're so amazing and so center of life that we want to get to know them, regardless of how crazy they may seem or how amazing they may seem. We love them. We want them. We want to know them. And we go to the end of the world to please them, to know them. It's not something logical, it's something that you're programmed to. So, thinking that will I ever get to know a woman? Will we men would ever know women? It's a dynamic thing. There's so much to them to know. It's not like ending in this paragraph, or this is what woman is. No, it's a living being. Hmm? It evolves. It always. It's an understanding. It's an experience. It's not a formula to learn it. Do we know it? It's not an engine. Okay, you put this together and it works. No, like the same thing with you. Some days you go, well, yeah, we're a little bit different, maybe, but there was a movie though. Funny, it is a funny part. It's not necessarily serious. There was a movie with Jungle to Jungle. Tim Allen was this stockbroker that was going to some island to connect with his wife, to wanted to divorce her to marry some younger chick, and this lawyer of hers show up at that island somewhere. I don't know where it was, in Africa or something, a tropical exotic island. And the the wife didn't show up, and this lawyer showed up, and he was a local and funny character. So he says to Tim Allen, says, he who knows what the woman wants knows everything, but even God doesn't know that. That's how I put it. It was very funny the way that the movie was put up. So pretty much that's what it is. And, you shouldn't expect to know women, because they're really very sophisticated, amazing, and there is no one kind to say I know women. And that's the beauty of it, that you can never get to know women. Yeah, yeah. There we go. That's the best way I can put it before I get into trouble. All right, all right, all right. All right, guys. I think it's time for me to mosey on out. It's been an hour and 21 minutes, and I don't see any other questions here that I might not have answered. And if it is, well, it didn't come to my attention. Petit Man says, "Hi, Meran. Hope you're doing well. I have a question, and I would like a detailed and thoughtful answer. I prefer to email it to you instead of Skype meeting, if that's okay. Of course, I will pay for it. Skype is very efficient if you like, but however it is, if, yeah, you can make an appointment on Skype, but instead you can write it, and I could maybe record the answer to you as long as it should be, but maybe in different short recordings. Because when it gets too big, I can't send it over. But you can write it, I will read it, and then I can record the answer in one if it's enough, or maybe a couple of uh, recording clips, and I will email it back to you. So the procedure is the same. Go on my site, make the appointment for 1 hour on the Skype thing. Then you can either use it as a Skype conversation or the way I explained. And we have Adam says, "Hi, how can I heal from relationship abuse?" Well, there are different kind of relationship and different kind of abuses. So you need to first of all tell me how old you are, where watching the program from, what your gender is, and then discussion about what the abuse was. Again, best is for you to go on my site, mindthatseekstruth.com, mindthatseekstruth.com. Make an appointment on Skype for 1 hour consultation. I throw in another hour for your as a first time client, and then you will have 2 hours to explore what's concerning you one on one on Skype. And Emily says, "I'm gonna go for a bit. Thanks for answering my questions, by the way. I really appreciate it. Have a good day and night." My pleasure, Emily. Thanks for being here and appreciate. Don't forget to promote the channel, guys. Okay, guys, I think it's time for me to. Huh? There is another. It says Anonymous, where's your credentials? Again, have you put it somewhere? It gotta be there with every question. Otherwise I can't know, I can't hunt it. Like what your age is, where you're tuning in from. Let's see, maybe if I can find it here somewhere up there. Don't send me on a goose chase, guys. Just put the credentials there. Yeah. I need to see your gender, age, and where you're tuning in from, Anonymous. So it wouldn't be that anonymous. uh, Gossip says, when is the next live? Guys, you should know by now, please. No wonder I don't have, my channel doesn't have that many subscribers. Nobody pays attention to what I say. Listen, every Saturday, 1 or 1:30 p.m., Vancouver time. Hmm? Pretty much. Unless something happens and I can't attend. Anonymous says gender male, age 14, and from Illinois. Look, for your age being so young, I need to see if you have permission from your parents to be here, because our discussions are for adults for 18 and over, and so I need that to know that you have your parents sitting with you, or you have permission for them. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I can't engage in this kind of conversation with you. But your question is not, let's see what it is. It says, I'm scared that something bad will happen to my sister. Well, that's because you love your sister. That's because you are kind, compassionate, and protective of her. That's because you love your life and you love everything that is good in your life, and your family, your sister is one. And this is what the amygdala part of the brain that creates anxiety and is responsible to protecting you is active to protect you and your loved ones. So comes up with negative thoughts in order to make you alert to take care of yourself. But these things are not coming to be true just because they show up in the head. It's just because you really want her to be safe, and the brain kind of picks on that, and then suggests something negative, because that's his job. Brain usually works on negative mandate, that its job is to think negatively so you can protect yourself better. So it's doing the same thing about your sister, which you love so much and you want her to be safe. So that's what it does. But don't give a damn. Just do your life, and she'll take care of herself, and nothing bad will happen just because a thought showed up. So relax. Uh, my answer for your question is actually was in the upload today. So I'm going to put that link for you here so you can look at it and see if that could help you out. That is a way to stay on course. And here it is. That's the link for you, Parithu, Prithu. So you can take a look at this 5-minute video, and that'll help you to know how to come back to your focus and what you should be doing, so you won't be uh, subjected to staying where the distraction takes you. Just take a look at it. It should be helpful, at least at some level. That's male 32 India. Thank you for that. Anonymous says, "Thank you, Mehran. I appreciate the advice." You're quite welcome. That's just the behavior of the brain. Don't pay any attention to it. The brain is stupid. Whatever shows up has no credibility. Don't be bothered with it. Otherwise, every one of us should be sitting at home, because everyone wants to be safe and sound. So we wouldn't even go out, because the thought comes in, maybe a car hits you, so I shouldn't go out. Don't listen to this garbage. Just pay attention. Do your best in whatever it is you're doing. Pay attention, and then you'll be fine. Do things right, think it correctly, and make right choices. You'll be fine. You can't be oblivious and careless and then still be fine, and then say, "Oh, see, my brain told me." No, your brain talks nonsense. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing, and do your research, and be making right decisions and good decisions, and you'll have a good chance to have good results and live your life. Okay, guys, it seems to me it's time for me to say goodbye for now. I love you all. Thank you very much for being here, giving me the opportunity to share a thing or two with you, and I look forward to talk to you again. If not spontaneous, sometime during the weeknights or weekday, I'll look forward to talk to you next Saturday at 1 or 1:30 p.m. Vancouver time. Yeah. In the meantime, be good to yourself and to the others. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.